Welcome teachers to episode 2 of the Getting Started with WUSHKA series. Today, we're going to dive into differentiation, so learning how to personalise your students' reading experience so that it meets their needs. The first thing that we did last week, just to recap, is we set up the students' reading level. And the way that we did that was by using this reading level correlation chart here, which you can find in the helpful resources section. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have any pre-existing benchmarking data to use this table to correlate across, there are other ways that you can actually assess where to start your students in WUSHKA. For example, this book, scrolling down to the support materials, you'll see that there is a running record where you can assess the students' accuracy and fluency. And there's also a comprehension assessment where you can have a look at where their understanding is currently sitting. Now, last week, we also looked at the levels access column and we gave all of our students access to their reading level only. So to recap, now that I'm signed into Blinky's account, I can see he only has access to this blue level. Now, if I go over to his decodable library, I can see that phase 4 has also been opened up as a result of me opening up the blue level only. Now, back on our class list page, if I think that Blinky is feeling particularly confident, I might want to change it to reading level and one level above for him. So if I hit that tick, I can see now he has access to both blue and green. Now, you'll also see that there are a bunch of different options that you have here. So you really have the capacity to set up for your students exactly what they need. Now I want to focus on these features. Now, these ones are quite self-explanatory. So let's actually check out what this looks like for Blinky. We've got his narration set to yes, read book during quiz, yes, quizzes are compulsory, quiz narration is yes, and detailed quiz results are yes. I'm now going to jump into his account and actually see what this looks like from his experience. So let's click narration.
Blast off! The rocket sails high into the air.
Now Blinky can control that, play and pause when he wants. When he flicks through and he gets to the end of the book, he'll hit the blue X. So I can see that comprehension quiz has loaded because I've put it on compulsory for him. And when I hit get started, the audio for the quiz questions will also come through.
Question 1. Yes or no, on page 2, did the rocket sail into the air? Yes. No.
Now here I can see this read book again button because that's the setting we put for him. If I click read book again, what I'll see is that a second tab has actually opened up next door. Now this means Blinky can click into the book and he can actually turn the pages through the book whilst he is doing the quiz in the tab next door. So this is going to allow him to refer back to the book while he's actually thinking about his questions. And now that Blinky's finished his quiz, he gets a really nice visual of how he actually went. And now with that book open in the tab next door still, this is going to actually give him a chance to reflect on his reading, maybe looking back and thinking, why was I right and why was I wrong? Okay, so now we'll have a look at differentiating for your students even further by using the groups feature. So for that, we're going to be looking at the reading group column and the reading group permissions column. So the first thing to keep in mind here is the reading groups feature can be used in a lot of different ways. In my year 1 class, you can see at the moment I have some typical reading group names. I've got my ants, my dolphins group. I also have a group who are doing mini-lit, so they're my intervention group. When I jump up into one of my older classes, for example, if I get into my 5G class, you can see that now I've used this feature to split the groups into different inquiry topics. So this could be used for project work, units of interest, or other such things. The setup is actually very similar to what you would do if you were using physical books. So first of all, we're going to set up the name of the reading group. For that, we'll go into Manage Class, Create Reading Group. We type in whichever name we want, the cats, create group. Step 2 is we actually now need to put students in that group. So we've got to allocate them. So I'm now going to go through and I'm going to put Blinky in the cats group. So I'll select that one, hit the tick, and I'll put that one in as well. Done. Now, step 3 is going to be that we now need to put books in the actual reading group box. And to do that, we're going to jump into the reading groups page. I can see I have my groups on one side, click my cats. I can see that the box is empty. Over the other side, I've got my leveled library with all the different levels here. And underneath, I have my decodables library. But this is a really good chance just to set up a specific bespoke selection of books for this group. So there might be a couple of books in the yellow level that I want to actually give them access to. I'll hit that plus and you can see the books dragging over there. Now, if I jump into some other levels, you can see that any books which have a yellow star on them, they have zoomed to the top of this list. That's because they're books that I have previously bookmarked. I'm going to give them one from orange as well. And then what I'm going to do is actually scroll down to the decodable library. And that's because I've recalled that both of these students actually do need a little bit of work on that book because of the sound, that book because of the sound. And then I'm also going to give them just a couple of books from phase 4 because I've ascertained that they also need a little bit of specific work on those sounds there. I have control over whether or not my students can see these reading group books or not. So I'm going to get back into class list. And the first thing I need to look at is this, reading group permissions. So right now, Blinky's reading group permissions are off, so he cannot see those cats books. What I'm going to do is switch them to on, and I'm going to get into his student login. So in his leveled library, now that I've switched those permissions on, I can see here are his reading group books up the top, and he still has access to that blue level and that green level like what we gave him before. I recommend that you get back onto the class list page and you have a look at this levels access column again, because what you'll see is that there's also an option for reading group only. Now, if I select that for Blinky and then get back into his account, I'll see that now he can only see those reading group books and nothing else. Well, that's all for today. You've now learned how to differentiate for your students' reading. Tune in to episode 3 of the Getting Started with WUSHKA series, coming soon.